So I was doing a little bit of research about you before, and I saw that you were also into architecture, that you are doing architecture as a job.
Yeah.
So I was curious to know how you moved from architecture into, for example, the arts writing.
Yeah, actually, I did not move from architecture to literature. I was doing both simultaneously. In fact, before I became an architect, I had started writing. Or while during my college days, also I started writing. Though that literature was not being produced or being published at that time or being staged at that time. But I used to write during my college days also, during my earlier science college days, then architecture days. So I used to do both the things simultaneously. I practiced architecture from 1981 till 2005. And for these 25 years, I was doing both. But after a point, it became nearly impossible to do both the things because architecture as a profession takes nearly morning to night, and theater becomes a problem because you have to travel. I was also directing a few of my plays, so it was not easy to do that. And though writing theater was not that difficult because the pieces are short, small, I could do it at night. But when I shifted to novels and theater history with a big 3-volume book, then it became impossible. And so in 2005, I started my practice of architecture and I concentrated totally on writing.
So, because you said that you started writing during your college days itself, who were the authors who inspired you to write, especially playwrights as well? But when you're writing novels as well, is there someone who you sort of look up to for inspiration?
There is no one person or no two people whom I can point out. But from Marathi, I think for theater, I would say it was Tendulkar and Adekar. And I was quite drawn to the political angle of absurd theater from outside, but not absurd theater in itself. But the existential philosophy, the philosophy of absurdity linked with the politics of absurdity as it was being practiced, especially in France at that time. And we were getting in Marathi the translated versions of it. And novels, I was mostly inspired by outside novels, European novels. Neither English novels, nor Marathi novels much, to a certain extent MAHE, but my worldview was very different from theirs. Even as far as theater goes, my worldview was very different from that of Tendulkar, from Adekar, because the the kind of shift that we had from 1980s, 1990s, before, if you take from 1985, there were no computers, no mobiles, no internet, nothing was there. The changes that have taken place, the globalization, opening up of market, the falling of Soviet Union, the changes that have taken place in last 30, 40 years, they have not taken place in last 500 years probably, on the socio-political, on technological level. And much of my writing has to do with the socio-politics of technology, the philosophy of technology. So, though I like their plays, I like that literature, I cannot say that I was inspired by that.
So when you say that you weren't drawn exactly to absurd theater, but more so the politics of the absurd theater at that point, what do you mean by that, by the politics?
No, I think the kind of, absurdity is not a new concept anywhere. From any religion, any philosophy, even the religious philosophy, whether it is Hinduism or Christianity absurdity has been there. The absurdity is in Shakespeare's plays also. Absurdity came to the fore as a central core after the Second World War, whether in novels or in theater. when that came in, it was a kind of the politics of absurdity was kind of politics against war, politics against capitalism, politics against what you call vasatvad, or countries ruling other countries, etc., etc. Politics against, in a sense, to some extent, even modernity and science. That what modernity has exactly given us, what science has given us. I mean, we thought that science was going to sort out all the problems, and suddenly, a Second World War, 6 crore people died. So this kind of we feel that absurdity is only about that. It means that there is no meaning to life, etc., etc., etc. But the way in which it came in, and which also inspired the movements of 60s and 70s of students in France, in Germany, and everywhere. That is, I think, politics of absurdity, which we also talk about art for art's sake and art for the social cause, etc., etc. And I mean, when art is for art's sake as an escapist art, then it is bad. But when it is art for art's sake, which says that no, I'm not going to write for money or glamour or anything, it goes against capitalism. So the whole outlook changed about the politics of art for art, politics of theater of the absurd, etc., etc.
So is absurdism something that you also lean into when you're doing your playwriting, or is there something which sort of separates your playwriting from other people's playwriting, like especially?
I would say that the times have also changed. I mean, the absurdity of Camus or Kafka, or that is quite changed now. When I started writing, that is one. The Indian response to absurdity is also very different. I mean, I spoke just a few years ago on Camus' centenary in Paris University, and I tried to relate how Indian mind faces absurdity, because we have a tradition of facing absurdity, from Buddha to neti to not being attached to one book, one religion, etc., etc., etc. And so we have, as Indians, a sense of absurdity which is different from the sense of absurdity of Europeans. Secondly, I have been continuously engaged with, as I said, politics and society. And so in that sense, when absurdity can lead to as nihilism, then I don't go with it. So when absurdity is leading to nihilism, absurdity leading to anything goes, I do not go in that direction. I go in the direction of, okay, there is absurdity, but there is exploitation. There is people living together. There is hatred. There is this, that, and everything. So then life is still absurd. So some of the existentialists said that yes, life is absurd, so let's give it meaning. So then what meaning do we give when we say life is absurd? That is where my search goes or travels to, and that is more of a socio-political search rather than a spiritual search.
So, and you can correct me if I'm not understanding this properly, but so are you viewing absurdism sort of more as like a tool which you can use to achieve, or which you can use to maybe arrive to a certain understanding of politics and culture and everything like that?
No, you see, absurdity is not exactly a tool as far as I am concerned, or I think for anybody. Politics is a starting philosophical point where you say there is no meaning to life. And so it takes you away from many other things like capitalism or many other things. But that, where does it lead you to? I mean, there can be many responses to absurdity. Like, I mean, there was my meme saying that when you tell an existentialist that life is absurd, the existentialist says that okay, then let's give it meaning. Whereas if you say life is absurd to an absurdist, the absurdist would say, so what? Then if you say life is absurd to a nihilist, he said, then okay, then I can go and kill any person. So absurdity can lead you to many different positions. And so what path you take after accepting absurdity as a philosophical starting point. But that doesn't mean that absurdity is a tool. That means that absurdity is a starting given from where you start. But then you also accept that, okay, there may be absurd. My life may be absurd. I may be, it is certain that not maybe, it is certain that you and me and everybody is going to die after a few years. That doesn't mean that when we are alive, we can do anything, or we can exploit anybody, or nihilism goes, etc., etc. We still have to play this game as if this game is real.
आपली नाटकं मी वाचलेले काही, त्यामध्ये मला चौक या संदर्भात धरून आपल्या नाटकाची जे काही कोर हे असतोय एक सेंटर पॉइंट, आणि त्याला तुम्ही आता अब्सर्डिटी बद्दल भरपूर छानपैकी तुम्ही व्याख्यान केला. तर मला असं विचारायचं आहे की कंटेम्पररी मराठी नाटकं आणि तुम्ही लिहिण्याची एक ढाचा आहे, ह्याच्यामध्ये काय फरक आहे? आणि चौकमध्ये तुम्हाला आता मी विचारलो ना तसं जसं दोन वेगळं हे तुम्ही जक्स्टापोज करता आणि त्यामध्ये नाटकीय अंश घटत एक वेगवेगळे अनुभव देतात. कंटेम्पररीमध्ये तुमचं रायटिंग, प्ले रायटिंग टेक्निक, त्याचं जो कोर सेंटर कोर असतोय ते, आणि आता यंगस्टर्स लिहित आहेत म्हणतात, मी थोडं काही मित्र आहेत वाचत, तसं काय आहे जरा सांगा की आम्हाला.
Do I answer in Marathi or in English or
English, Hindi or English?
anything? नहीं, काय है, what has happened is that, as I said, 1980, after 1980s, 1990s, lot of things changed. Technology changed, etc., etc. And I think technology impacts the socio-political conditions, the relationships, and everything, the way we look at life. और उसके साथ पॉलिटिक्स भी बहुत बदल गया है. After 2014, in fact, it has changed drastically and dramatically. So, and this is not only limited to India. This is happening everywhere in the world. So, दो तीन चीजें बदल गई है. एक तो ये बात है that the changes that now take place are very swift. They happen very fast. This pace was never there in history. I mean, we did not have electricity in 1950s, and now we cannot survive without mobile. I mean, even if a person who is living on a government grant, he has to have an OTP to take a government grant. So we need mobiles even for that. So this change is not only in technology; it's in politics, in the society, and everything. So when life has changed so much, थिएटर डिड नॉट चेंज एज मच. वह हमारी जो एक थिएटर की, हाँ, तो थिएट्रिकलिटी क्या होती है? वी हैव एन आइडिया ऑफ थिएट्रिकलिटी दैट देयर हैज टू बी ए प्रोग्रेशन, एंड देन इट शुड गो अप, लीडिंग टू एन एपिटोम, and then end in a crescendo, and this and that, like Tendulkar's plays or Ibsen's plays or Shakespeare's plays, etc., etc. In my opinion, now we are not in black and white era. Now we are not in black and white era. We are dealing in the gray areas. So दो चीजें हो रही है. एक ऐसा हो रहा है कि अभी तो इतना ग्रे एरिया है, बहुत कंफ्यूजन है, तो हम कोई उसके ऊपर we need not take a position on it. So then you can escape. That, yeah, everything is in gray area, anything goes, I can escape, I need not take any political position, any social position. But this is not actually confusion, it is complexity. When you say it is not confusion but complexity, in complexity you can take a position, in confusion you can run away from a position. So in a complexity you can say that yes, things are complex, but I can still take a position on something. I can still find out priorities, whatever may be there, whatever the conditions may be there, whatever US may be doing, whatever complex problems may be there, I would still say that the hatred that is brewing in the country is meant to brew in the country and all over the world is priority. You may agree with it, we may not agree with it, but what condition is to be taken on priority just now, that we can always decide in complexity. If I think, oh, it is confusion, I remember one American election where the election was fought on whether we should allow abortion and whether there should be a war in Iraq. Now, these two cannot be related at all. Earlier, it was capitalist against labor. It was, now it is capitalism against fundamentalism. So they just don't cross. So in this complexity, then you have to say that first thing that I will be against the aggressive nationalism. I will be against the hatred that is brewing. I will be against the aggressive regionalism, against aggressive religion, against the capitalism taking over even nationalism, etc., etc., etc. So in complexity, और ये अगर हो रहा है तो उसके साथ थिएटर को बदलना पड़ेगा. Then theatre will not have, so theatre cannot be linear progression anymore. It will also have to be like a collage. And that is not happening even in Marathi theatre today as much as it should happen. So if you have seen, you were talking about, so you would have seen that it's like a collage. It is not a single unilinear progression. So most of my writing is like a collage. Yeah, it's not unilinear progression. It takes into consideration many things that are happening simultaneously and then tries to choose which thing should be taken on priority. त्या ह्याच्यामध्ये तो धर्मकीर्ती सुमन आता त्या पद्धतीने लिहू पाहतोय. कमी आहे. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's all the time that we have for now, sir. But thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Despite the weather.
Yeah, with all the rain we are doing it. Thank you all.
Very nice to us, sir. Thank you so much.